All right, get this. We're jumping into a deep dive today, heading over to West Africa.
West Africa, okay.
Yeah, to hang out with the Dogon people of Mali.
Interesting.
So these folks, they live in these crazy cliff dwellings, right?
Right.
They've got these super intricate traditions. You'd think they're all about, just earthly matters.
Right, makes sense.
But here's the thing. Their knowledge of the cosmos, it's mind-blowingly accurate,
Oh, wow.
especially when it comes to the Sirius star system.
Okay, now that is interesting. Sirius, the Dogon, how do those two connect?
Yeah, it's a total head-scratcher. And that's what we're diving into today, Robert Temple's The Sirius Mystery.
The Sirius Mystery, I've heard of it.
Temple argues that their understanding, the Dogon people's understanding of the Sirius star system, points to something extraordinary.
Extraordinary, how so?
To really get this, we got to break down what the Dogon actually knew, okay?
Okay.
First off, they were hip to the fact that Sirius A, that bright star we see, has a companion star, Sirius B.
Sirius B, right.
Now, Sirius B, invisible to the naked eye. So how they even knew about it is a mystery in itself.
Yeah, you'd need some pretty powerful equipment to observe that.
Exactly. And it's not just that they knew about its existence. They described it as incredibly dense, composed of a substance, they said, heavier than all the iron on Earth.
Wow, heavier than all the iron on Earth. And they knew this just through observation.
It's wild, right? And get this. Today, we know that Sirius B is a white dwarf star,
Yeah.
which is indeed incredibly dense.
So they were right, but how?
They even nailed the fact that Sirius B orbits Sirius A in an elliptical path, not a perfect circle, and even estimated the orbital period at around 50 years, which is shockingly close to the actual figure.
50 years, that's incredibly specific. It's not like a random guess.
Right. What makes this even more fascinating is that the concept of elliptical orbits, it wasn't widely understood in Western astronomy until, think about it, Kepler's work in the 17th century.
Kepler, 17th century, yeah.
We're talking potentially centuries, if not millennia, of a gap in knowledge.
It makes you wonder, how far back does this Dogon knowledge go, and how did they figure it all out?
It really does. We're talking about seriously advanced astronomical concepts. And this was all passed down through their traditions. This isn't just some random stargazing. Their knowledge of Sirius, it's incredibly specific. It makes you wonder, what's the source?
Yeah, what is the source? There's got to be more to the story.
Exactly, and that's where things get even more interesting.
Well, this is where Temple's detective work really kicks in, He dug deep into the research of anthropologists like Marcel Griaule,
Marcel Griaule.
who lived with the Dogon back in the 1930s and 40s.
Right.
Griaule documented a treasure trove of Dogon beliefs and rituals, including those surprisingly accurate astronomical observations.
Okay, so Griaule kind of laid the groundwork, but it was Temple who connected the dots.
Exactly. Temple realized that this astronomical knowledge wasn't just some isolated thing, It was deeply woven into their mythology, specifically their creation myth.
Ooh, myths. That's where it gets juicy. Tell me more.
So picture this. The Dogon have these beings in their mythology called the Nomos. They describe them as amphibious, kind of like fishmen.
Amphibious alien visitors. Okay, I'm hooked.
According to the Dogon, these Nomos, they came to Earth from the Sirius system, and get this, they brought with them knowledge and civilization. Kind of like cosmic teachers.
Hold on. Cosmic fishman teachers from Sirius bringing knowledge to Earth.
Yeah.
This sounds like, I don't know, something straight out of ancient astronaut theory.
Right, and here's where it gets even more interesting. These themes, amphibious beings, celestial knowledge, cultural enlightenment, they're not unique to the Dogon.
You're kidding. So other cultures have similar stories.
Yep, remember the Sumerian myths about Oannes? An amphibious being who emerged from the sea to impart wisdom to humanity.
Right, once.
Temple argues these recurring motifs found in cultures oceans apart might be more than just coincidence.
Okay, so we've got similar myths on opposite sides of the globe. That's a lot to process. What are we supposed to make of these connections? Are we talking about a shared memory of some ancient global contact event?
Well, it's tempting to jump to that conclusion, and Temple definitely leans in that direction. But we have to remember, myths, they serve a different purpose. They're not necessarily meant to be literal historical accounts.
Right, myths are more about cultural values, beliefs.
Exactly. But that doesn't mean they should be dismissed entirely. The question is, could there be a kernel of truth buried within these myths? A faint echo, perhaps, of an encounter with something beyond our understanding in humanity's distant past.
So how do we even begin to reconcile these ancient beliefs with what we know about the universe today? I mean, where do we go from here?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Hmm.
And to be fair to Temple, he does offer some more grounded explanations before diving into the extraterrestrial deep end.
Okay, so if we're not going full-on ancient aliens, right? What are the other explanations for how the Dogon knew so much about Sirius?
Well, one possibility is cultural diffusion, basically. The idea that knowledge can spread from one culture to another.
Right.
Through trade migration, all that.
So you're saying the Dogon could have learned this from somebody else?
Exactly. Think about it. Ideas have always traveled. It's how we humans roll. And Temple does suggest a potential connection to ancient Egypt.
Oh, the ancient Egyptians.
Known for their own impressive astronomical knowledge.
Right, the pyramids, the alignment of the stars, all that. But how would that knowledge have traveled across continents to the Dogon?
That's where things get even more interesting. Temple points to the Garamantes, a Berber people who lived in what is now Libya.
Oh.
They were known for their vast trade networks strategically positioned between the Dogon and ancient Egypt.
Okay, I'm seeing the connections here. So the Garamantes could have been the middlemen bringing knowledge from the east over to the Dogon.
Precisely. It's like a game of historical telephone, but with celestial knowledge instead of gossip.
Celestial telephone, I like that. But I gotta ask, does cultural diffusion really account for how specific the Dogon's knowledge was? I mean, the density of Sirius B, the elliptical orbit, that's not just casual stargazing chit-chat.
That's a very valid point, and it's one of the main critiques of the cultural diffusion theory. Could the Dogon have received that level of detail secondhand? Or, and this is where it gets even more mind-boggling, is there another explanation? Could they have figured it out on their own?
You mean independent discovery? Like just by looking up and paying really, really close attention?
It seems improbable, right? Especially given the technology available at the time, but human curiosity and ingenuity can be pretty remarkable. What if over generations the Dogon developed their own methods of observation and understanding?
I guess it's not entirely impossible, but it does make you wonder, if they were such keen observers, wouldn't there be evidence of their methods like some ancient Dogon observatory or star charts?
Exactly, and that's part of what keeps the Sirius Mystery alive. We have these tantalizing clues, these hints of something extraordinary, but the complete picture remains elusive.
Okay, so we've got some possible explanations: cultural diffusion, independent discovery, but none of them completely satisfy, do they? It always seems to circle back to those no-nos.
It's hard to shake that image, isn't it? Amphibious beings from Sirius sharing their wisdom with the Dogon people.
It's like a part of me wants to dismiss it as pure science fiction, but then there's this other part that can't help but be captivated by the sheer audacity of it all.
And that's the beauty of it all, isn't it? The Sirius Mystery pushes us to confront the boundaries of our current understanding, to consider possibilities that challenge our preconceived notions about the universe and humanity's place in it.
So where does this leave us? What are we supposed to make of all this?
Well, I think that's for each of us to decide. The Sirius Mystery is ultimately a question mark, an invitation to explore the unknown, to question our assumptions, and to never stop searching for answers.
It makes you wonder what other mysteries are hidden in plain sight, just waiting for us to connect the dots.
Yeah.
Maybe the real treasure here isn't the answer to the Sirius Mystery itself, but the sense of wonder and curiosity it ignites within us.
Perhaps. And maybe, just maybe, that sense of wonder is the key to unlocking even greater mysteries in the future.
So if the Dogon story tells us anything, it's this: don't underestimate the power of ancient wisdom. There might be more to those old stories than meets the eye. Who knows what incredible tales are woven into the fabric of human history, just waiting to be rediscovered and understood. That's something to ponder, wouldn't you say?